Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Grow Your Recruitment Business in 2021 LinkedIn Live Show. My guest today is Jamie Rose from Blend Rec to Rec, and I will introduce you properly to Jamie in a moment. But for now, we're live via Facebook and LinkedIn. Please do come on and let us know if you're watching. Give us a hello. And let us know that we're coming out loud and clear. Let us know that you can hear us as well, because that's obviously really important. We're going to be talking all about sales today. We're going to be talking about what the future of sales looks like in recruitment, because things have changed. We're going to be covering, do old school methods still work? How did our sales and the effectiveness of our sales strategies change during the pandemic? And also what the future looks like. You know, how is the pandemic and the way that we've been selling going to affect our future plans as well? And we would absolutely love you to get involved in the conversation and give us your views as well. So, you know, I have my own opinion, Jamie has his, but we would absolutely love to invite you to have yours as well. So as you come on, just say hello, let me know who is watching, and also let me know what you might be interested in learning today. So as I said, my guest today is Jamie Rose. A lot of you will have seen Jamie or be linked to Jamie on LinkedIn. And he runs Blend Rec to Rec and also has the fanciest greenery in his office. You know, very much in touch with the green theme at the moment. So welcome, Jamie. It's really, really lovely to have you here. So what we're going to talk about today really is, you know, what sales looks like, because I think what we've both experienced and what we were chatting about before we actually came on was that sales has changed. So in the past, when I started out in recruitment 17 years ago, you only really had one option. And the option was the phone. You know, we had the yellow pages and we literally had a Rolodex and the yellow pages, and we used to pick up the phone, and that's how we did things. And that's how everyone did things. And that was absolutely fine. It worked brilliantly. And the phone still works. However, nowadays we have all these options available to us. So really, it can be quite overwhelming and it can be quite difficult to decide what's going to work best for you, your business and your desk. How you do things may also be dictated by the business that you work for. Some businesses are quite flexible now. Some just have, some are very traditional and want you to go down the phone route. Some of them are open to new technologies. So obviously that's going to depend on how you work as well. And I think, as I mentioned right at the beginning, that a lot of what we used to do perhaps changed during the pandemic, especially when it came to selling on the telephone, because sometimes we just couldn't get in touch with people. People weren't answering their phones. We didn't necessarily have their home numbers or their mobile numbers. We didn't necessarily want to be selling to people in that sort of climate. So it became more relationship led. And I think that's going to continue as well. So do you want to let us know, Jamie, what your experience is? You know, how long have you been in? What did you do way back when? How did you get on with your sales during the pandemic? And how it's affected your business?
So in recruitment a long time, more than I care to remember, and I think very much like you, when I started in recruitment, really the main sales tool that we had was the telephone. In fact, I remember my very first job, we even had like literally trolleys that had client and candidate information in, and that worked. And I mean, to a degree, the reason I'm here is because that still works. The telephone is still an amazing thing that we can use. But certainly in the pandemic, the same as everybody else, we needed a better way. We needed to reach more people in not necessarily less confrontational, but in a way that was slightly softer, that was in a way of saying, hey, we're here, but we're not trying to sell you anything. And that's really where my own personal journey with personal branding started, and really embraced it, and it's been great for our business. Not saying that we didn't have some issues like everybody during COVID, but certainly we've come out stronger the other side. So, my appreciation for personal development is very much linked to some of the older school methods as well, because where I've seen our best relationships come from, even though they started with the personal branding or the social side of things, they're really enhanced when we've taken them away from LinkedIn, when we started taking them into Zooms, when we started taking them into offline conversations, and we've really deepened that conversation. So personal branding, huge fan. It's even in my title on LinkedIn. But really, I'm also an advocate for taking it offline and using older school methods to build it on a deeper level.
I think that's a really good point, because anyone that follows me knows that I'm not a huge fan of cold calling, because I don't think it needs to be cold these days. And I think sometimes people get confused with that, and they think actually Lindsay's not an advocate of picking up the phone, and that's actually not true. You know, picking up the phone and still having that one-to-one interaction is really, really important. The point that I'm always trying to make is it doesn't have to be cold anymore. You know, there is such a thing as a warm call nowadays. It doesn't always have to be that we have no relationship with that person, that they don't know our name, that we haven't, you know, some sort of awareness of who we are before we actually have that conversation with them. So, you know, does cold calling work? Absolutely. I think it always will work, because, you know, as with any marketing method, the more we do it, you know, it is a little bit of a numbers game, isn't it? If we get in front of the right people with the right message, you know, someone will need what we have to sell. Especially if we have a candidate at that point that can solve the problem that they have. So it will always work, I think, as long as people are actually working in a office environment where they're answering the telephone. That's not what we're saying.
Exactly.
I think what a lot of people during the pandemic who had historically used that kind of method realized was that people weren't answering the phone anymore. And I know people in my Facebook group panicking, saying, you know, what I've always done, they're not answering the phone. So how on earth do I get in front of them? You know, and that was their comfort zone. They'd always done it. They were always really successful at it. And it was like, what on earth do I do now? You know, how on earth do I get in front of these people if they're not going to answer the telephone? You know, a lot of it was that everyone was sent home from the office, and you didn't have the number anymore. It wasn't a case of them not wanting to answer your call. You couldn't actually get in touch with them. So I think that's where a lot of people like you, Jamie, you know, really realize the benefits of LinkedIn. And I know that I was an early adopter of LinkedIn. So I've been on LinkedIn for over 10 years. I've actually used LinkedIn to build my business over the last kind of 10, 11 years. So, you know, it's worked really, really well for me. But for a lot of people, they just didn't need it. And that was fine, because they were doing what they'd always done and it was working. And I think suddenly we became socially distanced, but at the same time, we became really virtually connected. You know, LinkedIn almost became kind of like a co-working space.
Yeah, it did. It super did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. I embraced it to its full. I mean, you know, we've only got to look back when these Zooms first started. Everybody was tinkering around in the living room or in the hallway to try and make the background perfect. You know, and as it kind of developed on and on, people had like their coffee cups in the background, the kids or the cat running around. You know, suddenly we weren't office people anymore. We were in someone else's house, and that was really awesome. I think that changed
and I
many.
love that, because it was so much more authentic. We got to know people on a deeper level, which was absolutely amazing. And I think some people, they'd been on LinkedIn and they'd maybe used it for candidates, they'd maybe used it for research, but they hadn't really used it to put themselves out there. And suddenly we're putting ourselves out there because we wanted to build relationships, not just because we wanted to find new business, but because we wanted to support people. And also we were going mad, kind of sat there on our own. You want to feel like there's people that are going through the same thing as you that are out there. And I think that's where a lot of the authenticity came from. And actually, when people see us as real people, you know, with kids at home, with dogs, with a cat climbing over your head while you're on camera, or whatever it might be, you know, we got to know each other on a deeper level. And that was really, really nice. So I think a lot of people have discovered that. The great thing about personal branding, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever your audience is now, is that you can still build really, really personal relationships, but on a scalable level. So the great thing about the telephone is, you know, if you compare it to something like email marketing, we get to build a personal relationship. It's one-to-one. You're getting to speak to a real person. But I think what a lot of people discovered was the great thing about LinkedIn was that people could feel as if you were speaking directly to them, even if, say, you were doing a video and it was getting viewed by thousands of people. Every single one of those people, if your message was right, felt as if you were speaking directly to them. And that's kind of the power of it, because it's so scalable. And I think a lot of people, you know, are still shy about putting content out there. And I completely understand, because it's out of a lot of people's comfort zones. Absolutely. But I think it is something that's here to stay. In the future, whether people are, you know, going back to the office or not, I think people are used to, as I said, using LinkedIn not just for business development nowadays or candidate attraction, but as that co-working space. You know, I know that I like to have it on in the background, whatever I'm doing, because you don't feel as if you're on your own. especially if you're still working from home, or you are socially distanced in your office with screens up, whatever it might be. There's an element of being connected and being virtually connected. That's just really nice, isn't it?
And I think we must remember to go back a step as well. One thing I tell people is that our jobs haven't changed. We were recruiters before COVID, we're recruiters now. Our job is to be social. Our job is to start communication, is to start conversation. That hasn't changed. We're still recruiters. Our job is the same as it was before, and as it's going to be the same in the future. All that's changed is we have another tool. It doesn't mean that we have to say goodbye to the other tools, and suddenly, we're not being forced to do that. What we have got the ability to do is just to embrace something a little bit newer. So fundamentally, our jobs are the same. Time is a major, major killer in recruitment. Time kills deals, it kills relationships. It's a horrible thing. Being social, like you just said, reaching so many people, it speeds the process up. It puts time on our side. It suddenly puts, every single like is then shared in their network. I mean, I don't know how many, what the average number of connections is per person. That would be interesting to know. But every like is opening it up. And I think that what social has given us, all this development has given us, is the ability to get time back on our side. Recruitment is what we are, it's what we've always done, it's what we will do. We've just gained another avenue to explore and to do it and to have fun as well. And I think that's definitely the way forward, is to enjoy recruitment a little bit as well,
Absolutely, and we should. And I think some of us that have been in recruitment for so long, like me and you, if we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't do it. But I think being socially connected with other people that are really passionate, it helps, doesn't it? It keeps us going. And I think you made a really, really good point there, about the fact that, those old methods will always be around. But sometimes, we haven't got time to be making hours of cold calls every day and not getting in front of people. If you make a 5-minute video and it gets viewed by hundreds and hundreds of potential ideal prospects because you're building your network in the right way, massively, massively powerful. And it takes you 5 minutes, unless you do 100 takes.
Unless they're asking you.
Start doing it. But by all means, once you're used to doing it, the first one's the hardest, by the way, if anyone's not done them yet. But once you get used to doing it, it is one of those things where it's fun. It's fun. It's nice to be liked, isn't it? Great thing about social media and LinkedIn in general, for most people, I'm not saying there won't be trolls, but if you put out the right message and you block the right people, you'll be fine. But the great thing is you get immediate feedback. So there's nothing worse than making cold calls all day, not getting through to anyone, and leaving a million voicemails. And we've all been through that. It's the kind of the downside of recruitment is that when we have that amazing phone call, when we speak to the right person, it's absolutely amazing. But the reality is we spend a lot of our time not going through to people, leaving loads of voicemails. Compare that to putting out some content on LinkedIn that really resonates with your audience. You're getting immediate feedback, you're getting people engaged with it, you're getting people ask questions, you're getting conversation started, and it's fun because it makes you feel good. You're on the right track, relationships. But I think the great thing about kind of the new methods and things like LinkedIn and personal branding as well is that it's not salesy. You do not have to do a hard sell. In actual fact, you don't want to, because that puts people off. So it allows us to be ourselves. It allows us to educate people about what we do, how we do it, and who we do it for in a completely non-salesy way, which is more comfortable a lot of the time for the potential clients we want to work with, because they can watch us from afar and decide whether they like us or not, decide whether we know what we're talking about, decide whether we can help them, and then they approach us. And I think that's the difference between a kind of a cold outreach approach and kind of a warm inbound approach. Is they come to us, whether they decide to pick up the phone, whether we get a direct message, whether they start looking at our profile, so maybe we start interacting with them. They come to us, it's more comfortable for them, it's more fun for us, we're getting that immediate feedback. And sometimes it might be that someone wants to take a blended approach, and if they're not getting anywhere on the telephone, they'll go to LinkedIn instead, or they'll do a little bit of a bit of both. Going back to your time management point, I think that's really, really key. I don't know if anyone saw a Facebook Live that I did earlier in the year with Rowena Young. But Rowena was one of my clients, and she'd always been great at cold calling. She got all her business from cold calling. She did loads of sales calls, and she was really, really good at them. And when it came to the pandemic, she's got 3 kids at home. She's got a dog. She's got an open plan house. It just wasn't possible. She couldn't do it. So she came on my LinkedIn course and started doing the LinkedIn strategy. And now she gets all her business from LinkedIn. And that's not because she hasn't got the ability to pick up the phone. That's not because she's not great at what she does. But actually, LinkedIn just felt better with her lifestyle at that point, because she could be interacting with potential clients without them knowing what was going on all around her in the house, without kids shouting while she's on the phone, without being put in that stressful situation. So I think a lot of kind of the people that have adopted LinkedIn or personal branding as a strategy, a lot of the time it came from the fact that people weren't necessarily able to answer the phone, but also with so much else going on in the background, especially with the kids at home, it just wasn't possible to do things how we've done them in the past.
I do think when we talk about it, it's like a mystical finding, isn't it? Social media or personal branding, it's like this kind of new thing we've all found. But I think it's like everything. I think it's like the phone. I think it's like emails. I think it's like in-mails. I don't think it's any different. Without a plan, I still don't think it's going to be utilized in the right way. So when I'm talking about anything on LinkedIn, I'm saying, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for it. Actually, what I'm a huge advocate for as well is the groundwork that goes in before you even hit that first live button. I'm not saying to kill weeks and weeks, but I do think that it's no different to a mobile phone. If you don't use it very well, or you're just posting absolute rubbish for the sake of it, or whatever, whatever it is, without that plan, you're not going to get the best results. So I think whilst sharing personal branding, your story, I still think there needs to be some sort of structure around that in order to really.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. And I think, and that just goes back to, even if you're used to doing telephone work, the best salespeople prepare before they go on the call. They know exactly who they're speaking to. They know exactly the right questions that to ask. They know what they're looking to get out of it. And I think it's the same on LinkedIn. So people that maybe haven't had great results are the people that aren't posting regularly, are the people that are posting sales messages, are the people that are putting out all the bells and whistles and actually perpetuating the stereotype of a typical that people actually don't want to work with. So some of it comes down to perception as well, and how you want to be perceived by your audience. So really knowing that, and it comes down to knowing exactly who you want to attract and why, and also having lots of different types of content so that they get to know what we do. There's some people on LinkedIn that are so funny, and they've got real personality and they tell loads of jokes and they get loads of engagement, but I've got no bloody clue what they do. So that's a problem, because they may have loads and loads of followers and loads of engagement, but it's not going to lead to business for them. So if you're going to be using LinkedIn for business development, you need to be sharing personal stuff. You need to be building relationships. You need to be taking a genuine interest in other people, but you also need to be drip feeding them and educating them as to what you do, who you do it for, and what results you can get for them. And that's really, really important. So it's a strategy. And it's, at the end of the day, as with anything else, it's still sales. So you still need to have a sales strategy. You still need to know how much time you want to give it. You still need to measure your return on investment as well for the time that you're putting in. And as with anything, if something's not working, you need to tweak it. And obviously you need to go with something else. But I think the thing that people miss from LinkedIn sometimes is the fact that it's still a networking tool. So people may go networking face to face. I did a lot at the beginning of my business, and it was really good for me and my development and kind of building my network. But LinkedIn is that on a bigger scale. So what we don't want to miss is the fact that you are building relationships with genuine people. It's a two-way process. You don't want to just be having people come to you. You want to be engaging with them and their posts. And that's really important as well. It's not just about posting content. It's not just about connecting with the right people. It's also about actively engaging with people and building relationships, with no end game in mind. So sometimes with LinkedIn, the thing that recruiters struggle with is they're automatically kind of ingrained to sell. And that doesn't really work on LinkedIn. We all get those DMs where we connect with people and automatically they sell to us, and actually it really, really puts you off. So you need to take a different approach on LinkedIn. It's a more human approach. It's more of a relationship build, and it's more about adding value to your network, that people come to know, like, and trust you and want to work with you, for not being that typical salesy recruiter. And I think that's a really, really important point to make.
And I also think it's important to not forget that we are salespeople. Let's do some selling as well. But, there's a difference between selling in the wrong way and selling in the right way. Actually, like I said, my job has not changed. I am a recruiter. I need to start conversations. And if I don't, I don't always get the response I want from LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it is I might be, and if I don't, then I need to up the sales a bit. And I think this is the key. This is where the traditional comes back in, but it's using sales in a way that, I don't know, I kind of just like exploring conversations with people. I'm kind of a little bit weird like that. I really don't go into these things trying to think, I'm going to place you, this is going to be this interview. I kind of approach it in the sense of, I refer to everything as a cup of tea or coffee, because I think it's, do you want to have an interview? Not really. Do you want to pay taxes? Probably not. But, if you suddenly say, hey, do you want to jump on and have a cup of tea? Then I'm all in for that, So I think sometimes it's okay to sell. We work with some amazing clients, and I genuinely believe that, they're great options for people. And I'm here to tell people about those. So, sometimes it's okay to step up the sales stuff, but just don't undo all the work you've been doing to make yourself look, to build that brand that you're trying to build. I think it's about not undoing all of that with something silly like really uneducated emails, or I don't know, someone's probably going to type now, I've had one of your emails, but something that doesn't undo that. I think, again, we're talking about balance. Life works because of balance. A glass of wine's great. 10 glasses of wine, probably not so great. This is the same. Personal branding is amazing. Level that out. I think that's a really happy place to be.
No, that's a great point. And I think, it all goes down to the brand that we're building. And if we're going out there saying, this is me, this is the way that I do things, then do things that way. Don't go and then automatically, do the hard sell or whatever it may be. And when I say about not outwardly selling on LinkedIn, I don't mean, don't ask for the business, but there are a lot of different ways to ask for the business than what people do from a recruiter. There is nothing worse than those posts that you see that literally say, you don't know me, you don't need what I have to sell, but buy from me. It completely turns us off. And I actually teach my clients 20 different content types on LinkedIn, because it's really important that you start a conversation. It's about building a relationship, isn't it, rather than going in for the quick sell. And that's what successful salespeople do. They get the right message in front of the right people consistently, and it's about consistently showing up as well. And I think that's really, really important. Now, I'm not saying that LinkedIn is for everyone. I'm not saying that content marketing is for everyone. If you are using the phone and it's working for you, then absolutely brilliantly, because at the end of the day, if you're getting the right message in front of the right people on a consistent basis, you're going to be successful. But I think things have changed, and I think the pandemic has changed us, and I think there's so much new technology coming in as well, not just LinkedIn, but loads of other different platforms. Lots of people are getting into podcasting, for instance. People are really kind of stepping up the email game and sending out videos. Video is huge at the moment in terms of building relationships and getting your face and your voice kind of in front of your audience and connecting with people on a deeper level. So these things aren't going to go away.
Video is too cheap as well, Mary. Yeah, video, you don't need to spend a fortune. You can do it.
It's free. If you got free link, you could literally build your business on LinkedIn for free alongside your other strategies. You can put free. The best videos are the authentic ones that actually you film yourself of you talking to the camera, so that people feel as if you're speaking to them. I think there doesn't need to be any barriers to entry, and I think people probably who are seeing other people put out content sometimes think that's great for them. I'd love to be doing it, but that's not me. I'm not creative. I'm not techie. It's out of my comfort zone. That's not a bad thing. When I put my first post out on LinkedIn, I hope no one would see it. It's one of those things where I really wanted to do it. I knew it would work, but I kind of thought, I hope no one sees it. When I put out my first video, I kind of thought, I hope no one watches it. And actually, you want people to watch it, but you also don't want people to watch it at the same time, because it's new and it's different. And I think whenever we do anything that's new and different and we're a bit unsure, it's harder to take that first step. But what tends to happen is when you take those first steps, when you're showing up consistently, as I said, you're getting that positive feedback and you're on the right track, gaining the right types of relationships. So it kind of spurs you on. And that's not to say it's going to, you have to do it. It's not to say that you have to abandon one strategy if it's working for you and do another. It's just to say really that these new methods, they're not going away. And more than likely, there's going to be even more new methods that come out. So if you're like me, who's been in recruitment for a long time, and you have maybe been using one strategy and you've not really explored the new strategies, it's worth having a look. It's worth exploring it, because they're not going away, and times change, and we kind of need to change with them.
I would say as well that if somebody is new into recruitment, and they've maybe not got years and years of experience, and that's stopping them. I can't record a video because I'm not quite a specialist. Or, the thing you can do, what's also really great about the start of building this brand, is that you can share other people's content. You can comment on other people's posts. You could have one client that's doing really well in central London. You could share their experience or their story. So don't let the fact you've only been in recruitment 6 months stop you from sharing stuff. Or, equally don't let it get in the way of starting this journey, because what you can do is share other people's stories. What you can do is be the facilitator of other information that still is going to help people. So that's what I love about personal branding. Regardless of who you are, what you recruit, or where you live, I could almost guarantee that we could find something positive for you to talk about. And that's the great thing about it. You don't need 20 years experience to be able to create a video or to like someone's post. I think it goes a bit deeper than just liking posts. I think this is about people showing up. I really love that term. I wake up every day when I'm walking the 3 hours. I'm like, right, let's turn up today. Let's do something. And I think everyone's got the ability to do that. And I think it's, if you haven't quite got the confidence to start posting, jump on tomorrow and say, hey, I'm going to comment on 3 people's posts. I'm going to, even if you secretly know them and you work with them, that's fine. If that's how you can start, all good, all kudos to you. It's about taking action. And this is where I come back to the old fashioned kind of sales stuff. Sales is about taking action and starting conversation. If you don't message, if you don't like, if you don't do a video, no one's going to know you're there. It's not the fact you're a bad recruiter. It's just about people don't know you exist. And that's what I love about this, that experience or years of service, whatever you want to call it, doesn't play a part in any of this. Just rock up and have fun,
No, I absolutely love that. And I think that's a great point in terms of being if you don't feel like an expert, you don't have to pretend to be one. You don't have to be anything that you're not. But what you can do is be looking for things, and adding things that might be interesting to share with your audience. And you quote the person that's written it. You share it. You're still adding value. Go to the people that you really want to work with. Go to their content, comment on their posts, engage with them, build a relationship with them. At the end of the day, we all like to be liked. Who doesn't go and look at the profile of people that comment and like their posts? I know I do. Do you, Jamie?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
People like to be liked, so you automatically want to go and look at their stuff. So if you don't want to be posting your own content, but you want to be building a relationship with a potential client and they're posting content, go and start a conversation with them. Go and compliment them on what they're writing. Ask a question, engage with them. And I think it's really important. It's about showing up, and it's about showing up every single day, even when we don't feel like it, especially when we don't feel like it, because that's when we're going to get the results. And as with anything, it's those little actions that add up to those big things. And it's all about building relationships. Yes, it's about selling stuff, but actually by building those relationships, by gaining that know, like, and trust, people will want to buy from us anyway. We don't need to go in with a hard sell. So by all means, if it's less scary to think of it as building a new relationship, that's exactly what it is. Go in and build those relationships with the right people with no expectation, and you will get the result anyway. But it's about taking action. It's about doing the scary thing, being scared of it, but doing it anyway. And anything that's new to you is going to be scary. We all start at zero. None of us know everything. We all have to learn as we go along. We have to buy the course. We have to read the book. We have to follow other people. And if you see people in your industry that are doing really, really well on a platform like LinkedIn, follow them. Look at what they're doing. Success leaves clues. So there's absolutely no harm in taking inspiration from other people. Don't copy them, by all means. Find your own authentic voice, but you can still be, seeing when they're having success, looking at the clues that they're leaving behind. What are they doing? How are they doing it? And you can take that inspiration as well.
And have a goal for what this is all about as well. If you're going to bother to show up, if you're going to bother to turn up and make this happen, know what the end goal is. And that doesn't have to mean that you're a callous salesperson or that you're, kind of plotting to take over LinkedIn universe, but it's also good to have a goal. If you know that you are, I don't know, you're a legal recruiter, you live in Manchester, Cambridge, wherever, it's okay to start following certain clients because the aim is that you want to work with them. Because I think when you know where you want these relationships to go, you know what you can start posting about, you know what you can start sending them. It definitely helps you to keep that that kind of momentum. Whereas I think if you rock up and you're just like, I'm here, but I have no idea what I'm doing, then, it's where do you take that? Where does it eventually go? Whereas I think you need to know what it is that you want to do, because I know there's absolutely people in my network and it works really well. We know each other and we're building up towards either working together or whatever it might be. But everybody knows that. So you know what each person's going to do. I think just rocking up is great. I mean, that's step one. Step two is figuring out where's the end point in this, and sometimes it's longer and sometimes you get to work with people a bit quicker. But, if it's a client, they're a client, that's different content. If it's a candidate, that's different, that's cool. So I think a purpose is always good as well. Turn up.
As with everything. Yeah, as with everything, know exactly fill your network, only connect with people that you want to get in front of. Right. Don't be connecting with absolutely everyone on the planet, because then it makes it really difficult to find your messages. If you are looking to attract clients, connect with the right people, find out what their problems are, find out what they're talking about, and then you talk about things that are going to be of interest to them. Same with candidates, but also track it. The reason why people love cold calling a lot of the time is that they can track it. They know exactly how many calls they've made. They know what the call to job ratio is. They can see at the end of the week what their activity has been, and you can do a very similar thing on these other platforms as well. You can give yourself goals for how many people to connect with, how many pieces of content to put out, how much engagement to do, how many people you want to build your profile. It goes on. But if you track it and you track how you're actually progressing every single week, then you know whether it's working for you or not, and you know whether you need to change your strategy. But also, you can fall down the LinkedIn rabbit hole as well, can't you? So it's a great place to be. You could spend all day on there if you want to, but you can't, because you need to go out and you need to actually fill your jobs and find your candidates, etc. as well. So, be strategic, be intentional about what you're doing and what you're there for and what you want to take away from it, and then kind of leave it on in the background and go and do what you need to do. Because I know a lot of people that have gone the other way and they're spending every single minute of their day on LinkedIn, which is going to be detrimental to your business and actually is no different than making your whole day making sales calls. There needs to be a balance.
And I don't know how many people do this or whether it's just me and it's super weird, but I actually work with a clock. So I'm all about like really deep working, like zero distractions, getting on with it. So I work for 55 minutes and then I stop for 12 minutes, which is really, really good. That's like optimum.
So specific. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's like, it was a guy that, it was kind of a take on the Pomodoro, which was the older style of like a few minutes and a break for a few minutes. This was originally designed for like engineering or manufacturing years and years ago. And I tried it and I was like, well, this just really suits my personality, So I literally set a clock and I deep work in that time. I do nothing other than the task that I designed for myself. So it could be social, it could be sales, whatever it might be. Then in the break time, I don't necessarily stop work, but I'm doing other things, returning phone calls, emails. What it does do is stop me getting waylaid too much on LinkedIn. It stops me getting lost in stuff that doesn't make money, administration, whatever it is that is part of a recruiter's life, but we don't make money from it. So I definitely recommend, if people are trying to find this balance and feel they're spending too much time, set a clock on it. 55 minutes, there you go.
Then have your alarm going off and you need to come off. I mean, I'm the same. I have to be really intentional with my time because I work school hours and that's a big boundary for me. And that's one of the reasons I started my own business way back when. So when you actually have less hours to do things, you are much more productive. You have to be really kind of careful and really protective of your time. So you can't fall down the LinkedIn rabbit hole, or you can't spend too much time doing one thing because it means that something else, doesn't get done, which is really important, isn't it? So I think to kind of wrap up what me and Jamie have been saying so far, will the traditional methods still work? Yes, and people will absolutely continue to do them. I think the main point here is that we now have a choice that we didn't way back when. There's always a different methods, and I think it's up to us to decide what works well for us as well. Some people just aren't very good on the telephone, but they might be absolutely brilliant at content creation. And therefore, when we're looking to hire new staff, maybe we should be asking those questions. Maybe we should be seeing, looking for results rather than seeing a cookie cutter recruiter. I think that's really important, but also being open to trying new things as well and seeing how they work for you. Seeing who's doing things in your marketplace and what they're doing and what's working, because success leaves clues. So it's really, really important that we follow them as well. Just going to have a look at the chat now and see if we've got some questions, which I think we do. So if you have a question for myself or Jamie now, if you want to put it in the chat, and we will be absolutely happy to answer it for you. Simon says, great content. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Ruella. Says, I think LinkedIn recruitment can be a great tool, and I'm not in the recruitment industry. However, a real pet hate for recruiters on LinkedIn purely because they have multiple recruiters every day reaching out to him. And that's a really, really good point, because if you're using LinkedIn purely for a cold direct messaging strategy, that's going to turn people off. LinkedIn content isn't just about building relationships with clients. You can also really, really use it really effectively to build relationships with passive candidates. If people already feel as if they know, like, and trust you, when you actually do reach out to them because you've got a good job for them, they're much more likely to want to open your DM to see it for what it is, rather than feeling as if they're sold to. Reese also says he believes you need to capture every possible avenue to find prospective clients, and it seems recruitment is a very, very flooded industry, and new is good. Now, by all means, the last survey of how many recruitment companies existed in the UK was done in 2018 by the Office of National Statistics, and there was 39,000. 39,000. I expect we've lost some, but we've gained quite a lot after the pandemic. Lots of people starting. So I think it will be even more now. So it's a really good point, really.
Yeah.
We need to stand out from all those people, Look at what people are doing in your market, look at what you can do differently to stand out to your clients, because if not, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, and it's 38,000, but I can guarantee you 37,500 aren't turning up. So, this is the other thing, what is great about all of this, that, sure, there could be 38,000, fine, cool, but it's not about, I don't think mentally it always pays to go down these roads. If I was to put in Wrecked London or something, I know so many people, probably shock me how many there are as well, because it's just not helpful. It's not relevant. I've got a good grasp on the market. I don't need to overanalyze everything. And I think this is what personal branding can do. There's going to be people that like you. There's going to be people that don't like you, and I think once you get to terms with being okay with that, you can then focus on the people that literally love you, and you just work together so nicely. And that's what we were talking about, the future of recruitment. Future of recruitment is the same as what it was before COVID. The future of recruitment is about relationships. It's about likability. It's about starting conversations. And you know what? It's about selling. That's what we do. We think, hey, you've got a great profile. Actually, this is genuinely a good step. I think what social does is stops you having to go in so cold. It stops that perception. So yeah, I think, yes, it is saturated. But sometimes saturated is also a great place to be, because there's 100 black sheep and you're the white sheep. It's super different to everyone else, right? So sometimes saturated isn't a bad thing. It gives you the ability to really shine and kind of say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I'm proud of what I'm doing, and that's great. Everyone's got an equal platform here. It's just how you choose to rock up and use it.
Absolutely. And it's a really good point you make, that we're not for everyone. Someone might absolutely love you, or they might love someone else, even if you do the exact same thing in the exact same way. And that's really important. I think the thing that LinkedIn, or something like LinkedIn or other platforms, allow us to do through a personal brand is build that relationship so that people get to choose us. And I think that's quite important, because they choose, people buy from people, as we know, and never more so than kind of in a post-COVID where people are more interested in that personal relationship, and it allows us to stand out in the right way for the right reasons. But you know what? If people don't like us for being our authentic self on social media, we don't want to work with them anyway. So it's absolutely fine. So we'll attract the right people, we'll repel the wrong people, and they can go to one of our competitors, and that's cool.
Yeah, this is true, and I think I think ultimately that so many people are talking about it, but I think there's so much truth behind it. It's just about starting. You know, like you, before we started, you were saying you remember some of your first posts were horrible. Mine were the same. You know, I think that the nice thing with this is we've already established anyone can do it. It's just about finding a starting point and kind of having a bit of a plan. There's no point saying, yeah, I'm going to post something now, and then you get despondent because true people like it, and then you don't do it tomorrow, and then you rock it again on Wednesday. You know, I think it's about it's about kind of accepting it's like anything. It takes time to build up, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Also, you get better at it. You get better, you develop a skill. So I think one of the things we were saying before we came on was that if I look at my old videos from LinkedIn and my Facebook group, they're absolutely shocking, but they still won me business. And I think that's the important thing. Have I evolved and am I much better at these things than I was then? Absolutely. But they still won me business. So everyone's going to start somewhere, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more authentic you get, the more kind of exactly what your clients want to see in terms of your content, because you get to know them better, the more results you get. But the important point is that you will never get there if you don't take that first step and start.
Yeah, I used to lie awake at night wondering, will I go to yoga the next day? The answer was always no, in case you're interested. Now I lay there thinking, what the heck am I going to say tomorrow? It's quite a little journey you go on, and you start finding these little snippets, and you're like, I could use that. Like I've been posting about Mel Robbins recently because I found her, like I'm literally her biggest stalker right now, and you suddenly start looking at other things and you think, oh, actually, I could use this on LinkedIn from everywhere. And that's really exciting. The more you use it, content is still, to think of good content is always difficult, but I definitely find that the way you digest information is different. You really ramp up your knowledge on an industry, because in order to post, you're having to take all of that in. So it's tons of benefits, not just from the posting, but from the mind as well. You're really learning to take information and extract the best bits from it. So even if you're not going to become like daily posting, just learning to go through information is still so valuable.
Absolutely. Almost in wanting to be the expert, you become one by actually consuming the content and educating yourself. I think that's a really important point as well. So going to wrap up now, but thank you so much everyone for joining us. If you've watched us on the replay and you do have a question for myself or Jamie, or you want to make a comment, please make sure that you do give us a hashtag replay. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. And if not, I shall see you next week with next week's episode of the Grow Your Recruitment Business in 2021 LinkedIn Live Show. And all that's left for me to do is thank Jamie so much for joining us. You have been an absolutely fantastic guest. Please do go and connect with Jamie if you aren't already connected with Jamie. Not only is he a fantastic rec to rec, he posts some really, really amazing content as well. So please do go and have a look, and we shall see you soon.
Thank you.